common question that I've been getting a lot lately is one discovery call that's just 20 to 30 minutes enough to accurately quote a project to a client? Yes, the answer is yes, but not always. So yeah, it's a yes for me now. It was a no for me before when I first got started. And to be perfectly honest with you, a lot of this is still driven by instinct because I've done it so many times before. So I know what to listen out for. I know where the red flags are. Not all of them, but a lot of them. So I've filtered that out over time, and you will do the same thing too. Today, I want to actually walk through a few of the tips that I can give you to make that 20 to 30 minute call count so that hopefully you won't have to have multiple discovery calls before you can send the proposal. Because the more steps you put between sending the proposal or the onboarding packet to the client and getting them to actually book, the less likely they're going to be to follow through. So the easier you can make it, the more likely they're actually going to do it. Before I dive into that though, if we haven't met before, my name is Caitlin. I run Launch the Damn Thing. I am a Squarespace web designer and educator. And before that, I was a graphic and print web designer. So been doing this for 15 to 20 years, literally. So without further ado, let's hop into this, and I'm going to talk to you about what I put in my lead inquiry form and how I direct or do my discovery calls. So if you're a budding entrepreneur, I'm guessing one of your first questions is, how the hell did this chick learn all this shit? That was always my question. How do they know all of this? Especially when you come across somebody that's younger than you and they know more than you do about that thing. Look, we're not experts. We are not born experts out of the gate. I did not learn any of this in college. I learned graphics and conceptual design best practices and principles. I did not learn how to run a business by myself. I did not learn how to market my business. I did not learn how to do contracts with clients. I didn't know any of that. Figured it all out from experts or gurus or mentors that I looked up to. And one of those people was Paige Brunton. In the next few videos, I'm going to be going over some of the things that I learned in her course, Square Secrets and Square Secrets Business, just a deep dive into little pieces that are important for you to know so you can get the ball rolling and eventually take a course like that to learn more in-depth information from the source. So today, I'm going to talk about lead inquiry forms and your discovery calls, but in future videos in the same series, I'm going to go through my 2-week process, what that looks like. I got that from Paige in her courses, but how I've adapted it for my business, how it works best for me. So things like that are coming soon. So stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe so you'll catch those updates. So first of all, to collect leads, you need an inquiry form, but you need a good one. And a lot of people struggle with what questions to ask. Do I ask this many questions? Is this too many questions? Is this enough questions? Which ones will actually help me vet people or weed through the inquiries to pick out the people that I want to work with the most? I get it. It's a lot of pressure, and you're a little bit worried that if you ask too many questions, they won't do it. If you don't ask enough questions, you won't have enough information to know whether or not they're going to be a good lead. Let me just stop you right there. Max out at 7 to 10 questions. Your client does not want to fill out the equivalent of a job application to work with a service provider. They just don't. So you don't need all of that. You can get it on the discovery call. Just keep it down to basics. These are the types of questions that I ask on my own lead inquiry form, and they're safe for you to apply to your business and at least use that as a starting point. So let's talk about what they actually are. The first question is asking for basic information. First name, last name, email, right? We just need basic information to call them by their name and reply to their inquiry. The next step would be to ask whether or not they are or have or want a product-based business or a service-based business, because that will tell you whether or not you are a good fit for their type of business, whether you have the right experience, whether you know enough about the platform they should be on. For example, I asked that question because I am looking for people that do not say product-based business, because that's not my jam. That's not my heart. I don't get joy from doing e-commerce sites for the most part. I don't tend to work with people who have product-based sites. What I mean by that is the majority of their revenue is earned through the sales of products. where they have inventory, where they have shipping, those kinds of things. That is not my joy. The next question I ask is for them to pick a service. Which service of mine that I offer are you most interested in when you are filling out the inquiry? Is that a custom website? Is that a design day or a VIP day? Is it a coaching call or coaching in general? Is it just a general question? Is it a guest opportunity, speaking event, guest on a podcast, those kinds of things? Those are the options. What I suggest for you is to make sure you put pricing next to services that you offer in a range. That way, when they pick this option, and if you make it required in your form, they literally cannot miss the price that you charge, which means you will be weeding out the people who are price hagglers. You are weeding out the people who are going to be red flag clients. So you're going to make sure that no one misses your prices, that they have to see it, that they know what they're picking when they tell you what that price is. They are setting the budget and the intention for how much it's going to cost to work with you when they submit the form, because they chose that amount when they told you which service they are interested in. And yes, I 100% realize that this is kind of scary to do. You will grow into it. Get over yourself. No one cares about this stuff as much as we do, I promise. So the one caveat I will say to doing this is that you have to make a note to go and edit this field in Dubsado or Squarespace, wherever your form lives, every time you change your prices. So if you're changing your prices a lot, make sure you put a calendar reminder to make that a habit to change the prices on your website, on your services page, the prices in your inquiry form, wherever they live, right? Okay, so that's the downside and the upside to listing your services in like a drop down and including the price range for each service in that drop down. The next question is ask them to tell you details. What are they actually wanting help with? Give them a big content area for them to write down. What do they hate about their website? What do they want to fix about their website? Whatever they want to tell you, right? You can ask for more details in the discovery call, but at least you give them a place to break down. Another thing is to ask, and this is extremely important, where or how did they find your website? The reason this is important is because if they tell you they consistently find you on Google or they consistently find you on Instagram, you know where to focus your marketing efforts. That is all that is. So that is how I know 90+% of the clients that I work with have found me through Google or a specific personal referral, right? Because they have literally told me, I found you through Kim. I found you through this specific Google search, right? So ask that question. It is extremely helpful for you to, over time, learn how people are finding you. The next question is to tell you why they want to work with you. You can feel the vibe here just as easily as they felt the vibe from you on your website. This helps them weed you out just as easily as it helps you weed them out. When you read that response, you will know right away whether or not you probably can work with that person because they told you something that resonates with you or it totally doesn't. In most cases, I would say 80% of the time, that answer tells me whether or not I want to work with that person or whether or not I can work with that person. If they told me they want to work with me because they found a blog post and this is the specific link and why I should link back to their article, I'm going to delete the thing, right? There's a reason why I ask that question, even when it's just a general inquiry and they're not interested in a service, even if they're just telling me that there's an opportunity for a guest spot or something. So those are the main questions that I ask on my lead inquiry. Now, what happens after they submit that? It redirects to a welcome packet type page, a discovery page, whatever you want to call it. Here's what I list on that page. First of all, I have a video thanking them for taking the leap and sending me the inquiry in the first place. It's a funny video. It's like 2 to 3 minutes. The last half of it is literally bloopers because that's my personality. That's my business style, right? It's all based on having fun. So this is the way that I can kind of reinforce that I am a happy-go-lucky person and I will be fun to work with. Here is me literally screwing up and laughing at myself because of it. So I have a video. I also say thank you for reaching out. And after that, I tell them what happens next. I have an easy to read synopsis of phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And then after that, I link back to my pricing area, the specific anchor link to that section of my sales page so they can double check the pricing. I also have a link to my project calendar so they can see what my current availability is like, and I keep up with that in ClickUp. And I also have screenshots or areas that link to my portfolio to show them recent launches or some of my favorite work. I also have a section for FAQs so they can weed themselves out, get immediate answers to questions they might be having so they don't actually have to ask me. And so I don't actually have to say it for the 10,000th time, right? This is to not waste both of our time. And the last piece is the link to my actual scheduler so they can book the discovery call. So when they submit the form, they get redirected to this welcome packet page. They also get an autoresponder email at the same time. They get both. They'll be immediately redirected on their screen to the welcome packet page. But in the meantime, they're getting an automated email response that says, hey, I've gotten your thing. This is an automated response. This is a link back to that page. In case they clicked off of it for some reason, they can get back to it again if they need to, because that's not linked anywhere on my website. It's a secret link for all intents and purposes. And that autoresponder also gives them access to my scheduler so they can book the discovery call. So they can book the discovery call in either place. Then after that, my workflow will send up to 3 follow-up emails automatically. And those I have to stay on top of because my scheduler is in Calendly, but my form is in Dubsado, and the two don't necessarily talk to each other, but it will automatically send. It'll just tell me to approve the email before it sends. So Dubsado has workflow automation approvals. I have the email template already in there. It's set on a timeline. It will email me that I have something to approve in Dubsado. I log in, approve it, and it will send. That's how I stay on top of the automated responses so that when they apply and I've gotten the lead and I've technically responded, right? And they ghost me or whatever for a week because they got busy, but they still want to work with me. We will never know unless we ask. So the follow-ups are kind of required, like they need to be so that you are forced to follow up, because sometimes if you don't ask, it's not top of mind and they'll come back to you when they're ready. And maybe that's 6 months from now, maybe it's 2 years from now, maybe it's next month. You never know. So that's my lead inquiry form process. Then after all of that, they've booked their discovery call. There's a whole workflow system that I have in Calendly that will send them confirmation emails and texts. They get an immediate one right away. Then they get another email 24 hours before, and then 1 hour before they get an email and a text reminding them. Inside that email, there's also a button to reschedule or cancel the appointment before. So if they need to, they can. They don't have to bother me to do that. It's wonderful. By the way, I love Calendly. So I hop on the call. We have a meet and greet, small talk for 5-ish minutes. And then I'll say like, okay, it's time for you to talk. I'm here to listen. Tell me what you want, what you're looking for. Tell me about your business. Tell me about your website. If you already have one, what's not working? What do you hate about it? What would you like for it to do? And what I do is listen. I know that seems crazy, but mostly I'm just listening. I am listening for things that they say that intrigue me. I am listening for them to talk about their business. I am listening to see what their processes currently are and if that sounds outlandish and it ought to be simplified or streamlined or become more efficient. If there's things that I know their website could do to help alleviate some of that admin work, I'm listening for those types of things. I'm also listening for how many pages it sounds like their website is. I'm also listening to see what platform they are on and if they are wanting to move to Squarespace so that I can say, hey, by the way, I specialize in Squarespace specifically and I don't take projects in other platforms at this time. So there's lots of things that I can latch on to kind of pivot the conversation if I need to. But ultimately, I am just listening to what they are telling me and absorbing that information and forming kind of a knee-jerk reaction so that I can give them a quote on the call. I know that's scary. I would not have probably leaned into that early on, but it is really helpful now so that I can gauge their response on the call. So again, I'm listening to them. I'm listening to their processes, what their website does or doesn't do, what it doesn't do if they don't have one, or if they have one and it doesn't work the way they want. If they happen to say they've worked with a designer before and what went wrong there, I'm listening for red flags. I'm listening to them maybe mention their budget or things they've tried before, like a DIY website, and now they know it's time to hire. I'm listening for all of that. Once they are done, then I can ask them specific questions like, ballpark, can you give me a rough figure on how many pages you think you currently have? I know this all sounds very nebulous. So let's give you an example. I worked with a client recently who was on WordPress. She actually had 2 websites, but when she reached out to me, she didn't specify that. She just said she had one website for her law practice and another one for her blog, but she didn't mention the blog at all. So when we got on the discovery call, we had a 20 to 30 minute chat. She told me what was going on. She told me about the practice website, and then she realized that the 2 could actually become one website. So she asked me, I actually have this other website. Could we potentially import them both and merge them into the same site? And so on the call, I pulled up her other website, her second one. I took a look at it. I asked her, ballpark, how many posts do you think it has? What kind of content is in those posts? I took a look at it. In my experience, I was able to say, yes, we can merge them. I'm pretty confident it would be relatively simple to do through the import-export process with WordPress and Squarespace. And I gave her a quote on the call that I felt solid with. So I gave her the quote live on the call. And then I sent her the proposal with that same estimate. I mean, everything worked really smoothly. We just wrapped that project. It did, in fact, go very smoothly. I didn't need to charge her extra. Everything went great. So that's my instinct kicking in after so many years. But just to know that now I can get on a call, not really need a plan, but just have a loose interpretation of listening to what she says, being able to jump on her live site. I do love to do redesigns. That's probably my favorite. So I was able to get on both websites, compare them. They were using the same logo. They were more or less using the same types of stuff, the same color palette. Both of them are run by her company. So that was really easy in my head to merge. And I just explained that we would reorganize a lot of the information and kind of set the path so that people knew what was on the site and where to look for it, so that there wasn't so much hidden information. There was a lot of SEO stuff that we needed to tweak and get better at, be more current with best practices and stuff like that. But basically, conversation was done in 30-ish minutes, right? And that was a big website. It turned out to be about 400 posts, 52 events, 10 testimonials, 40 plus FAQs, 100 plus resources, individual resources to link and organize, 20 to 30 pages. It was a large website, but I quoted her an accurate number. I never had to change that number. I did it on the call. I did it on the fly. You will get there. I promise. It will take some time. It will be some trial and error. And if you need a little bit of a push, check out this video, because imposter syndrome is real, but maybe we need to think about it a different way. You will get there. It just takes practice, but you got to start somewhere. So those are my tips on having a productive discovery call. So I hope that kind of gives you an idea, at least of the start of my whole client process from onboarding to offboarding. That's just a little bit in the beginning before a client ever actually becomes a client. But if you want more information along that line, like what it looks like to onboard a client, I have a whole video on onboarding with Dubsado specifically, to go ahead and get in the weeds of that while you wait for next week's video, which I'm super excited about. So make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss out on next week's video. Wink, wink. All right. That's all for this video. I will see you in the next one. Bye.